I felt, more than heard, the circle of friends congratulating me. Actually, there was a bit of silence as we all looked around for someone else to report. Barbara hesitated. Reaching for a strand of her straight blonde hair, she tucked it behind her ear and said, a little tentatively, "Well, I was out of town quite a bit. Does it count if my open-heart conversation was with someone on the plane, not someone in the stake?" We all started to laugh, along with Barbara. Yes, this experiment had grown out of a Relief Society committee, but how absurd that we would think that any good thing we do should be limited to boundary lines, whether they be geographic or religious or otherwise. We would talk about this a great deal in the coming months as we began to understand more and more that we were experiencing a change in our own hearts, becoming different within ourselves, not doing something to someone else. Obviously, if we are becoming new creatures, we will be consistently practicing whenever, wherever. If having an open heart is just a matter of doing, we can turn it on and off like a switch. Be a good mother, be an irritable coworker, a good gospel doctrine teacher, a withholding daughter-in-law, and so on. Barbara took heart from our laughter and began to describe an experience she had had with a seatmate on the plane. At first, they just exchanged pleasantries, but before Barbara knew it, the woman was talking about the conflict she was feeling between managing her career and nurturing her family. Barbara said to us, "I instinctively knew that I shouldn't give advice. My only job was just to keep praying and thinking about my heart. Is it open, non-judgmental, loving, accepting? It was quite easy. I just listened and responded from my heart, and this lovely woman talked and talked. By the time we landed, we really cared about each other. She said, 'Thanks for letting me talk. I guess I didn't realize until I went on and on how much I care about my family. They really are more important to me than my job. I know what I'm going to do, and thanks for helping me figure it out.'" "Wow," Barbara said. "Usually I get on a plane feeling grungy because I'm so tired. I'm telling you, I walked off the plane feeling better than if I'd slept all the way." No silence this time. We all turned as if with one hit to the next person. It was Pauline, and she willingly shared something she had done. She told about going to the gym to work out a couple of weeks before. As I walked in with my daughters, a woman greeted me enthusiastically as though she really knew me. "Hi, Pauline." Panic. The face didn't look remotely familiar. I couldn't pull up a name or even a context. But just as I was ready to fake a friendly response and go to the other side of the workout room, I thought of our experiment and paid attention to my heart. It was all shriveled up, moving to the back of my chest, protected, hard, and rather cold. I quickly talked to myself. "Wait a minute, Pauline. This is your chance to experiment." So I said, "I'm sorry, I can't place you. Tell me your name." The door flew open to what Pauline called the most wonderful hour of conversation. We moved to exercise machines next to each other, and my friend from kindergarten, whom I had not seen since high school, ended up telling me her life story. It had been a tough one. We cried together as she described what she had gone through, but the real tears came when she told me that she had been rebaptized that very week and was anticipating a new and good life ahead of her. My heart at the end of the hour was a different heart. It was the heart we've talked about so much, softened, opened, filled with His love, reaching out, non-judgmental, positive, kind, affirming. After we finished exercising, I introduced her to my girls. It was as if I were introducing a long-lost loved one, and I guess that's really what she is. I know I don't love her like the Lord does, but there really was some of that in there. Then Pauline paused and said more quietly, "I can't believe I almost missed the whole experience because I habitually keep my heart closed up and move on when I don't recognize someone. I guess it's pride. It's such a stupid thing. And guess what? It didn't take any extra time out of my day." Pauline raised one closed-fisted arm in a triumphal salute. Life is good. And so it went around the circle. 2 hours flew by. Everyone had at least one simple story to tell. We had come into the room thinking that we hadn't done very well, but as we listened to one another and reflected on our moments of awareness, when we had consciously opened our hearts, our enthusiasm literally exploded. Even as we sat together, we felt our hearts changing in profound ways. The world around us suddenly seemed new. We began to feel directly His love for us, and we were surprised at how energizing it was to help others feel God's love for them, because of the way we thought about them and treated them. As we tried to describe what we were learning, we began to laugh. This wasn't as revolutionary as we thought. It was pretty basic stuff. Christianity 101, if you please. Why did it seem so effortless and brand new? And it took virtually no extra time, except, of course, for Ellen, the understated overachiever, who insisted that making several batches of cinnamon rolls was part of the natural flow of her life. Perhaps we had spent a lot of time in our lives going about doing good rather than letting the Lord help us become good in our hearts. We loved it and couldn't quit talking about it and our desire to change even more. This little book, then, becomes an explanation of our committee's journey and a personal invitation from me to you, my listening friend, to join us in opening your heart just a crack wider now and then. Because of our shared experiences, I really am convinced that having an open heart does split the sky in two and let the face of God shine through. I hope that the simplicity of our experiment won't insult you, that you will think it inviting to consider your own heart. Perhaps my friends and I are the only ones on the planet who are making life harder than it really is. But maybe, just maybe, it's harder for you than it needs to be also. As part of the experiment, think of the women in this chapter and their stories. Were you particularly drawn to any of them? Which one, and why? As you consider opening your own heart, what stumbling blocks might you anticipate? Find one or more friends who might like to work with you, people with whom you feel comfortable, who will want to talk back and forth as you all experiment with, redefine, and add to the concepts we've talked about in this audiobook.